What's happening, lads and lassies, and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a very, very special episode of this because, wait a minute, who's that guy over there? I'm pretty sure he's never been here before. So if you don't know who this fine gentleman is, this is TCK Films, also known as Noah, one of the kings of pop culture. And I know for the boys out there, yes, this is actually happening right now. This is not a fever dream.
Yeah, this is real.
And as you can tell by the background, you know what movie we're going to be covering. The movie we love to hate, Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's very fitting that my first time on this channel we're talking about this movie.
Yes, it very much so is. And it's ironic is because it's one of the first movies that we found out we have a very similar opinion on.
Yes. I was very happy to hear that.
Oh, yeah, don't worry, man. We can get right into it then. So, going into this, right, we were rewatching this in hopes of it being better than we remembered. And if anything, it was worse than we remember.
Yeah, somehow it got worse.
Yeah, so I'll let you go first since you are the guest. So go ahead, tell me some of the stuff that did really irk you in this movie.
Yeah, so first I'll give a little bit of a background with my relationship with this movie. So I've never liked this movie. I know this movie is very beloved by many Marvel fans. I could never get behind it, and I'll get into that. But I haven't watched this movie in like 4 years, 5 years. So it's like, you know what? Maybe I was just in a bad mood every time I watched that. So let me give it a new chance. And it was hard. It was still hard to get through it. I mean, there's very few little good things I like. If I had to talk about the things I liked about this movie, I'd say good soundtrack. Immigrant Song is used very, very well in this movie.
I agree.
Kate Blanchett as Hela, I think, is a very strong villain, especially because the MCU lacks good villains. I think she's on the stronger side of that. And I guess I like the Hulk versus Thor scene. It's probably the highlight of this movie.
Yeah, that's the only scene I remember.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, that's like one of the best fight scenes in the MCU, I'd say. But yeah, now that's all I liked about it. But the bad things about this movie,
Oh,
the
here
humor,
we go. The juicy stuff.
Humor. Oh my, the humor. This movie cannot be serious for more than a minute, I'd say, without having a stupid joke. And if you're gonna interrupt a serious scene with a joke, have it be a good joke. But no, these jokes, they're just sexual jokes or butt jokes or naked jokes or stupid dad jokes. And there's very few times I never laugh in this movie. I'm being honest. I never laugh. Maybe I'll like do a little I'll smile because the joke was clever, but that's very little. The movie's not funny, and it very much tries to be funny, and it completely fails, in my opinion, to even do that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thor, like the movies before that, weren't critically acclaimed. You know, they're not great movies. Thor 1 and 2, they're nothing special, but at least it was Thor. At least it was true to the character of Thor.
Yeah.
This one completely throws that out the window. It changes Thor, but it's like watching a parody of a Thor movie. Like, you know, the scary movies, how it's like a parody of like the Scream movies.
Scream movies, yeah, no, I totally agree. That is totally on par. Like that's the thing when it comes to this movie. Like there is a lot. I know there's gonna be a lot of fans out there going, "How dare you hate this movie?" It's like, dude, shut up. Like it's not funny. Like I laughed because of how bad it was. It wasn't because it was genuinely funny. So I totally agree with that. It does look like a spoof movie and a very bad one.
Yeah, like even Chris Hemsworth, like he plays such a dumb version of Thor that he's like he becomes almost unlikable in this movie. I wouldn't say I hated him in this movie or hate the Thor character, but this caused the downhill of Thor in this movie because it just made him a complete goofball, and that's not who Thor is. And it does that for Hulk too. Like we were talking about this, like Bruce Banner, he's not even Bruce Banner in this movie. He's just Mark Ruffalo. It's just a funny
It's Mark Ruffalo not knowing where he is.
Yeah, and Hulk is like Shrek. He's like Shrek in this movie. Like the looks, the things he says, the way he acts. Like it's not true to any of the characters. It's a silly spoof of a Thor movie. And my famous line is, "It's Skittles." Like the movie, it looks bad. It's a bunch of colors. It's a bunch of random things thrown into the movie. Like I hate the way the movie's edited. It's not. It's just one thing after another. There's no smooth sailing in this movie. It's just one scene after another. Random cameos, random lines, random jokes. It doesn't. Like we said, the coloring of this movie, it's bad. Like
so terrible.
It has one scene is like bright, and then the next scene is so gray, and it's just hard to.
It's
hard
jarring.
To ignore that. It's jarring. Yeah. Like Loki wasn't bad. I'll say that. Loki was probably one of the few highlights of this movie.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Tom Hiddleston though, because he's always really good in all the movies.
I agree. I think it's just his charm and he knows how to play the character.
Yeah.
But this movie, I think this movie it changed the course of the MCU. Like a lot of directors of the MCU are like, oh, we can make other movies now more funny and silly. And in my opinion, it didn't work. Like Spider-Man Far From Home. Like that movie reminds me of that. It's not as bad as this, but like it's rather be silly and funny rather than telling the story.
Yeah. No, see, I agree with a lot of those points. Like, it's the same for me. It's like some of the good stuff for me, for example, is just like the Hulk and like Thor stuff. But like, I still can't get over that opening scene where the main big bad that is to destroy all of Ragnarok gets battered and like gets done in like 5 minutes into the thing, as well as they have that stupid joke with him spinning around being like, oh, I'll be back round in a second. And I'm like, dude, that's not funny. Like, why are you dragging the scene out? And it's the same stuff. It's like when the color changes are so dramatic to the point where it legitimately screws with your eyes because you're like, whoa, what just happened? Especially with the cutting of this movie. It's so ridiculous. Especially when Doctor Strange was there. Like, he's doing stuff that he never does ever again. But on top of that, the way they've cut it doesn't look right either, which makes most logical sense as well. And then obviously when it comes to like just Thor, like, as you can see in this photo, he decides to cut his hair for whatever reason. Like, it makes no sense, you know. And that's one of the other issues I have with this. Is the same as like when I went back to watch the first Thor with Danny. Like, there was a sense of humor in it, but it was so much more serious, and you know, it felt more like Thor. Where this Thor doesn't feel like Thor; it feels like Chris Hemsworth doing a bad impression of Chris Hemsworth's Thor.
Yeah,
and then, you know, all these weird bondage jokes as well. He seems to be getting tied up a lot, you know.
Yeah.
If it's not
Taika Waititi, man, he's got some kinks, man.
That's a given. That is definitely a given. You know, because like it's just so bizarre. It's like, why did we have to see the Hulk's butt? I'm sorry. Why is that?
That's what I said, bro. Like, what? Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah,
nobody wants to see that.
I'm sorry, like, we don't want to see that. Like, you know, like, I know Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life is a thing, but that was made by someone else. It wasn't actually made by the studio heads. Like, that what makes it worse. This was.
Hope. Yeah.
You know?
I agree. And also, like, this storyline, the death of Asgard, Ragnarok, the death of Asgard, that is not a funny storyline. You know, this is the death of Asgard and its people. Why is it a comedy? Like, it doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna pick a Thor movie to do a funny storyline, you don't pick the death of Asgard.
Yeah, no. Like, that's like having like a comedic sound effect during like a battle of Endor and like Star Wars, or like Anakin's going on a temple march, but he's doing it to like, I like the way you move it or something. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? It makes no logical sense. And it's also like the comedic timing of the stuff isn't even really funny either. Like, yeah, the villain's good in this, which is obviously Thor's sister, but then they even make a joke out of that most of the time. It's like, oh, like markruffalo's like, oh, I'm not gonna fight your sister, dude. Like, that seems like a family thing. And it's like, dude, what?
Not my Hulk, bro.
Not my Hulk either. But one of my most hated scenes in this was like the first 20 minutes you see of the sister. It was so badly CGI. I swear, if it had a little bit of grain to it, it was a PS2 cutscene.
Yeah, I don't remember the CGI being this bad on the first few times I watched it. But rewatching it, it's terrible. Like you said, it's a video game cutscene and not even a good video game. Like,
it looks like one of those very old ones that don't make logical sense. And also the way they move just looks weird. The fact that Thor's best friends that have helped him fight bigger and I would argue scarier enemies than his sister get took out in like 2 minutes
like
at the beginning.
Like that. And there's no, like, nobody tells Thor about that. Thor doesn't ever react to his best friends dying. Like, Taika Waititi, he just he takes control and does whatever he wants and doesn't consider the previous movies.
Yeah, I think he had a bit too much fun with this because it shows that like I'll joke, right? I'm neurodivergent. I've got autism, right? But if I've seen autism personified in a movie, it's this thing because I do not know what's going on half the time. The color grading is so terrible half the time. The CGI is going from really great to like, what the hell have I just seen? And then the Hulk is just not the Hulk. Thor's not Thor. And then I just don't get what they were trying to do. Like the story is so inconsistent. It's like you can't follow the coherent story because there isn't one. It's like, haha, this happened. Oh no, this is. They have one deadly serious scene, which my good friend TCK pointed out, which is Odin's scene, and that's
Odin's death. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the only scene that's not interrupted by a joke. Like the editing of this movie, it's awful. It's just joke after joke, and the cuts. I don't understand how this was. Like, I really don't understand how people like it. Like I cannot see a side of it where people are like, this is a really good movie. No, I prefer Thor 1 to this because that's true to the character. This is a spoof on Thor. This is disrespectful to Thor and all the Thor characters that go with it.
Yeah,
like Jeff Goldblum. He's not playing a different character. He's Jeff Goldblum. He's just there for the jokes and to say some weird, corny stuff.
He's just there for a cameo. Like that's all these movies have became, is a cameo fest of people and horrible jokes that don't land. And it's the same, but like the only one good sort of cameo they had in it was the Matt Damon one.
Matt Damon, yeah, but that was clever and it was unexpected and.
Yeah, it actually referenced another movie, you know, like what I like my references to do, instead of just being like, do you remember this one time in another bad movie? And you're like, yeah, I do, unfortunately. Thank you for reminding me of how bad that movie was. But, you know.
Yeah, I agree. The ending of this movie, like, it tries to be so serious. Like, Asgard's not a place, it's a people. Where was that theme the whole movie?
Yeah.
Like, all we see about the Asgardian people is them getting killed or them being background characters. Like,
it's one of those things that never really adds up. Like, this movie tries to be like 3-4 different movies in the one movie, and so it just ends up like it's none of them or none of the above. And that's what I would argue is wrong with MCU, especially at the minute, where it's like they're trying to connect all these movies. They keep having all these daft cameos. They're trying to make them funnier than they should be. You know, like something like this, like you said, should be taken seriously. You know, it's a death of a like whole godly planet. But no, it's like, oh my god, look at this. Hulk and Thor getting lost on on this planet, and they're trying to figure their way back out. And Jeff Goldblum is sitting there trying to get, you know, the old Asgardian lady that becomes the king of Asgard in the next movie. Don't even get me started on that, by the way. You know, like, it makes no sense. She shows up drunk and then falls over, and it's supposed to be funny, I guess. And
Valkyrie,
Thor's getting
with Valkyrie, I feel like they didn't know really what to do with her. Like, they were like, we need a female lead because Natalie Portman is not in this one.
Yeah.
So, and I like Tessathompson, and I think she does all she can with the script.
Yeah.
But it's like they didn't really know what to do with her. Like, were they trying to set her up to be Thor's love interest? Or is she trying to be, you know, portray them? Like, I think she's very underdeveloped in this movie.
Oh,
and she
yeah,
still
definitely
doesn't have that development.
Going forward.
But
yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Like, when it comes to like Valkyrie, like, I just don't get why she was important, really. Like, she just sort of shows up to track down Thor and take him to Jeff Goldblum's character. And then even after that, you know, it's one of these weird, bizarre things that I don't understand. Is that why do you want to make a movie so jarring that the audience is legitimately sat there going, what did I just watch and where's the plot gone? Because like this reminds me of when I like first watched the first Aquaman movie, where this one was so jarring, where that one was just so predictable. And you know, they're from two different like companies, but they're very similar in a lot of ways, I would say. Because like at least this one's jarring. That one was just way too predictable, you know? And it was a bit jarring as well, where I don't get where they were trying to go with Marvel at this point. This is where I would agree. This is probably where I see most of the influences of what we see in Marvel now. And That just makes me mad because I'm sick and tired of this side of Marvel now. Like, what happened to the actual fun but serious? You know, like Tony Stark being really serious, but having like an odd, weird,
he has
funny
the quips, you know, like
Yeah.
he has the funny lines, he has the funny moments, and like the same thing with the Guardians. Like it's the perfect balance of humor and when to be serious. And this movie just is completely one-sided with comedy and 2 minutes of seriousness. And you can't, like I said, you can't have the storyline. But also, something I forgot to mention was how like they completely nerfed Thor this movie.
Oh
Like
god,
he's the god of thunder, and then Valkyrie throws a little taser thing on his neck, and he gets electrocuted.
Which makes no sense.
Make any sense?
No,
Like,
it doesn't.
This guy just went toe to toe with Ultron, and he can get tased though. Like,
no, you're right. You're right. Especially because he's the god of thunder, right? Physics would dictate, right? He's got an electrical current going through him at all times. So how could he be tased?
Yeah.
It would just connect with his electricity and make him stronger.
Because Taika, he just completely got rid of logic and the characters for the joke. Like, all he cares about was the joke. And if you're going to do that, make the joke funny. But it wasn't even funny. Yeah. Like, it just makes Thor stupid.
Don't even get me started on those colorful budget Power Rangers that looked like evil Power Rangers. I'm sorry, what was that? Like, I'm being serious. This is like if it's an art student decided, you know what, I'm just going to chuck a bunch of colors on a canvas and hope for the best. And that's what this is.
Skittles,
that's what this movie is.
Skittles. It's a bag of Skittles, man.
It's a bag of Skittles.
That's what I mean.
Overall, what would you rate the movie? Because I'm very intrigued now.
out of what? Out of 10 or 5?
Out of 10.
I mean, I always like to give the movie a little bit more credit, but this movie, like, it had no reason being this bad. So, with saying that, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10. I'm sorry, I 2 out of 10. Like, I know a lot of people are gonna say that's harsh, but like, I don't like this movie at all. I really don't. And 2 is generous for me.
Yeah. Well, dude, I said it in my head before you even put it out your mouth. I was like, this is a 2 out of 10. Like, 2 out of 10. Like, I'm not even that harsh with movies. Like, hell, there's movies that I'll rewatch and I'll go, oh, I didn't really like this, but I can see why people would like it. So I'll give it like a 6 or a 5. With this, if you like this, all you're telling me is that you clearly like some funny stuff. And you know, because you need to be on funny stuff to think this is funny or enjoyable in the slightest. Because, like, I watched it and
you can't be sober to enjoy this movie.
No, you can't. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what the secret to their success was. They were just secretly giving out beers or something during this entire movie. But
anyway, I said a few years ago, like 3 years ago, I said this is bottom 5. But there's been a lot of worse MCU movies that's come out since then, so it's not bottom 5 anymore because there's been worse things, including Thor: Love and Thunder, which is much worse. That's a half a star out of 10.
I would agree, man.
But this is bottom 10, definitely on my list for MCU. It's completely, it's disrespectful to Marvel. Like, it's a joke. It's a joke of a movie.
Don't you find it funny as well? It's all this stuff started happening, unfortunately, after the main man Stan Lee died.
Yeah.
After he passed away, unfortunately, this is what MCU became. They stopped caring.
Would he approve this? Like, I don't know.
No. Do you really think he'd approve of half the stuff they're doing with his characters? No. Oh, hell no. That's the reason why he was on all the movies. He probably wrote that in his contract so he could make sure they weren't screwing his movies or his comic properties, because they've done it with every single one at this point.
Yeah, like we said, I think this movie takes the blame for why Marvel's like it is the way, because they think they can be silly and funny and that's it, but nope.
No, you can't be when it comes to these, especially characters like this, because look at what happened with The Walking Dead. Once you do something that completely rips out the characteristics of the show from the comics, no one wants to watch it anymore. And that's why I think there's a lot of people that will still hype on new Marvel movies, but it's not the same fans that were hyping up the original ones. It's the newer audience that are like, yeah, like power this, and it's like, I don't care about powers. I don't care about the comedic aspect. What I want from a comic book movie is to be accurate. If you can do different things, don't get me wrong. There's some amazing alternate takes that I do like, but this is not how you do that. No. It's really not.
It's not. It relies on like Marvel movies now, they rely on cameos and They can't even save those cameos for the movie. They have to put in the trailer because no one will go see it without,
Or they get leaked off set.
Yeah,
I wonder who leaked them.
Yeah, So, like, I really liked Thor in Infinity War, but I didn't like him in Endgame, and not because they made him fat. It's how they
Don't even get me
executed
started on that.
They made him a joke, and it's because of this movie. If this movie was not the way it was, we wouldn't have Endgame Thor like that.
Yeah,
and then
I
we
would
wouldn't
agree.
have Love and Thunder Thor like that.
Yeah, that's not even Thor. That's Thor mummy, because like he turns into a right mum. He's not even a dad. He's a mum.
Yeah,
and it makes no sense.
He's a joke. He's a joke. Yeah. He's just a source for jokes.
And no wonder Chris Hemsworth said he doesn't really want to come back to the character. I don't blame him. Like, especially when they're doing stuff like this to one of your beloved characters, Like, as much as people can say that stuff about Henry Cavill as well, like, Henry Cavill's a guy that wants to stick to the source material, but he then gets shunned and booed from all the executives and producers because, oh, well, it's not my version. It's like, I don't care. I don't want self-inserts in Marvel movies. You see, if I wanted a self-insert, I'd read your book, but I don't want to read your book, so please just give me my characters without having to make them fat, having to make them a completely different race, which I'd argue is probably even worse than just making a new character for people. To me, it just doesn't make sense. And this is one of the movies where it starts to show that this is the direction that we're going. And now, ironically, they're having to tiddle it back now, because if they don't, then MCU is dead. And I'm going to be honest about that. A lot of people don't want to admit that. A lot of people are...
It's dying. It's dying. I mean, it's proof that it's dying based on how many people just aren't watching the new shows and movies. And I don't even blame it. I myself, like, I haven't checked out the new Echo show yet. I have no interest in it. Yeah, I don't have any interest because based on how the Marvel shows have gone, and I don't care about, like, this character. But, like, I don't know, man. This was like Marvel's first to really, like, stinker.
It was one of it's the first one where every logical part of your brain goes, why? Why is this a thing? Why did you make
this? Is this real? Is this real? Like, is this an MCU movie now? This has gotta be it. This gotta be
there's no doubt there's probably people going to be in the comments being like, I love this movie. It's a 10 out of 10, and I don't care. Like,
no doubt. And I'm not trying to take that. If you love the movie, God bless you, because good for you.
You must be God blessed to enjoy this movie. I don't know how you would otherwise.
Because good for you. I'm not trying to convince anyone not to like it. I'm just sharing like why I don't think it's good, and I don't understand why people think it's good. But if you do, good for you. Not my cup of tea. Not my Thor. Not my Hulk. Not my Marvel movie.
See that, and that's why I like doing these videos, and why I like showing people alternative takes from what they might be used to. Because that's why I like doing videos like this. Because a lot of people will come and they will think, oh yeah, they're going to like be like so much of a fan of this movie because everybody else is. But one of the things that you as a general audience out there watching this video need to really, really understand, just because everybody else likes it doesn't mean you have to like it, because that is starting to really irk me.
And the other way around.
Hey, I like a lot of bad movies. I like Batman and Robin. I find it funly bad, but a lot of people hate that movie. That's cool. But you don't have to make it your entire personality. We don't need that. Like, we've already got too many people like that in this fandoms as it is. So we don't need more of that. So can you please take a chill pill, sit at the side, and maybe go touch some grass for a while? There's some lovely sights out there to be seen, like...
Be civil, yeah,
there's castles, there's museums, and get this, there's actually people that you can actually engage with, instead of sitting there going...
Keyboard warriors, man.
I know. But anyway, since we've done this, I normally would do a post-credit scene, but I guess I can. After this video, if you're into Spider-Man, there is going to be a video over on the Miles and Peters podcast with yours truly, with Danny at Backy's at the helm as well, and of course with Cody and RJ, which you can go over to their channel because there's a link in the last video. But I have to say this right now, a big thanks to TCK for coming on and doing this video as well. There's going to be a link down in the description for his channel. Go check his stuff out. He used to be a Cobra Kai channel, but he's moving away from that as well.
We've evolved.
He's evolved. He's like a Pokemon. He's at his second evolution now. So for me, he does some really good videos. He breaks down a lot of stuff, and even his Cobra Kai stuff was really good as well. So go over, make sure you give that stuff a check out. But I have been Ken and Wolf. That has been TCK. And we shall see you guys in the next video.
See you guys.